The city sprawled before Elara like a vibrant canvas, each street pulsating with the kind of energy that invigorates the soul. Tall buildings, both modern and historic, intertwined in a dance of architectural elegance, their facades painted in shades of grey and beige, but adorned with splashes of colour from the flowers that spilled from window boxes. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the salty air of the nearby coast, creating an intoxicating aroma that felt like a warm embrace, promising new beginnings. It was a world brimming with possibility, yet for Elara it often felt like a labyrinth, where she wandered alone, searching for her own place in the tapestry of life. Having moved to the city just weeks ago, she found herself in constant awe of its vibrant art scene. As a painter, she had always been inspired by the stories that the city whispered, yet beneath the surface of her excitement lay a quiet anxiety. The echoes of her past, of dreams deferred and love lost, haunted her thoughts. A recent breakup had left her feeling like a shadow of herself, as if the vibrancy of her colors had dulled and faded. Each stroke of her brush was laden with the weight of her emotions, and she longed to break free from the chains of self-doubt that bound her. As Elara stood at the entrance of a cozy cafe, the soft chime of the bell above the door announced her arrival. The walls were adorned with local artists' work, and the air buzzed with laughter and the low hum of conversations. She settled into a corner table, her sketchbook resting on her lap, its pages filled with fragments of her dreams. She took a moment to breathe, inhaling the comforting aroma of freshly baked pastries, feeling the warmth of the sun streaming through the windows. Across the city, Julian was preparing for the evening's event, a lavish party hosted in one of the grandest venues. The air was thick with expectation, and the clinking of glasses and chatter of voices filled the opulent hall. Julian, a man of considerable charm and charisma, was a figure admired by many, yet he often felt like an outsider in his own life. The weight of his affluent background pressed down on him like an unwelcome mantle, stifling his true desires. While his friends reveled in the pleasures of wealth and status, he yearned for something deeper, a connection that transcended the superficiality of his social circle. As he prepared for the evening, the reflection in the mirror revealed a man dressed in a tailored suit, polished and perfect, yet beneath that exterior lay a heart wrestling with doubt. He had a reputation to uphold, yet his spirit longed for authenticity. He glanced at his phone, noting the time. The party would soon begin, and he would be expected to play his part, but a flicker of restlessness stirred within him. As night fell, the city transformed into a realm of lights and shadows. Elara, feeling a sudden surge of courage, decided to accept an invitation from a friend to attend the party. She had heard whispers of the grandeur that awaited, a showcase of art and society, yet the thought of stepping into a world so foreign to her sent a wave of anxiety crashing over her. Still, she resolved to venture outside her comfort zone, hoping to find inspiration among the glittering lights. The venue was stunning, a blend of elegance and extravagance, with chandeliers that sparkled like stars overhead, and a sea of beautifully dressed guests mingling in animated conversation. Elara's heart raced as she entered, her senses overwhelmed by the sheer opulence of it all. She felt like a fish out of water, her simple dress feeling inadequate compared to the designer gowns swirling around her. A sense of isolation washed over her as she stood at the edge of the room, clutching her clutch like a lifeline. Hello, beautiful, romantic soul. Before we dive into today's love story, I'd like to invite you to subscribe and leave a like. It's quick, free, and helps keep this little corner of love alive. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from tonight? As the evening unfolded, Elara attempted to blend into the background, her gaze drifting from one conversation to another, but the laughter around her only served to amplify her solitude. Suddenly, a group of socialites approached her, their eyes narrowing with disdain as they whispered among themselves. Elara's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as they drew nearer, their laughter ringing in her ears like a cruel melody. "Look at her," one of them sneered. "What an odd choice for a party like this." The words stabbed at her heart, igniting a flicker of humiliation that burned brightly in her chest. She felt exposed, the weight of their judgment suffocating. Just as she contemplated slipping away from the crowd, a familiar voice broke through the noise. "Excuse me, ladies," Julian interjected, his presence commanding immediate attention. He stepped forward, an air of confidence surrounding him as he fixed his gaze on Elara. "This is Elara, my future wife." The room fell silent, and Elara's heart skipped a beat, surprise washing over her like a wave. The socialites looked taken aback, their expressions a mix of confusion and shock. Elara's mind raced. Was he joking? The warmth of his words enveloped her, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. Julian's eyes held a glimmer of sincerity, yet the absurdity of the situation left her momentarily speechless. His declaration reverberated in her ears, resonating with a sense of belonging she had longed for. In that moment, the laughter around her faded, and for the first time since entering the party, she felt seen. Julian stepped closer, his presence grounding her as he introduced her to the crowd with a charm and ease that captivated their attention. As the evening progressed, the initial shock began to dissolve, replaced by a growing curiosity about Elara. Julian guided her through conversations, ensuring she felt welcomed among the elite. They exchanged glances that spoke volumes, a silent understanding blossoming between them. "I didn't know you were going to be here," Julian said softly as they found a moment of respite away from the prying eyes. "I thought you could use a friend." Elara's heart swelled at his thoughtfulness. "I was hesitant to come, honestly. I didn't think I belonged in a place like this." "You belong anywhere you want to be," he replied, his voice steady and reassuring. "And besides, I think you bring a unique perspective to all this." As they shared intimate conversations, Elara found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't anticipated. Julian listened intently, his eyes reflecting genuine interest as she spoke about her passion for art and the struggles she faced in finding her voice. With each word, she felt the barriers she had built around her heart begin to crumble, revealing the vulnerable woman beneath the surface. Yet, beneath the allure of the evening lay an undercurrent of tension. Julian was acutely aware of the expectations that surrounded him, the weight of his world pressing down on his shoulders. He admired Elara's spirit, but the nagging voice of societal norms whispered doubts in his ear. Would he be able to bridge the gap between their worlds, or would the chasm of their differences prove insurmountable? As the night wore on, the connection between them deepened, yet the shadows of their insecurities loomed larger. They danced around the edges of intimacy, moments of silence filled with unspoken words, their hearts yearning for something more. The enchanting atmosphere that had initially drawn Elara in now felt fraught with uncertainty, as if the very fabric of their connection was woven with both hope and fear. In a moment of vulnerability, Elara confided, "Sometimes I feel like I'm chasing a dream that's just out of reach. I want to create art that resonates, but I'm terrified of failing." Julian's gaze softened as he took a step closer. "You have a gift, Elara. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Art is meant to provoke feelings, to stir the heart. You have the power to create beauty in a world that often overlooks it." His words ignited a flicker of courage within her, a reminder that her dreams were not just fleeting whims. As they stood together, the music swelled around them, wrapping them in a cocoon of possibility. Yet, as the night progressed, the reality of their lives began to seep back in. Julian's attention was drawn to an approaching group of his peers, their laughter ringing hollow in the air. The pressure to maintain his image weighed heavily on him, and Elara could sense the shift in his demeanor. For a fleeting moment, she felt a pang of insecurity, wondering if the beautiful connection they had forged was merely a fleeting illusion, destined to crumble under the weight of expectations. As he stepped away to greet his friends, she was left standing in the shadows of the party, the laughter echoing around her like a distant memory. In that moment, doubt crept into her heart, whispering that perhaps she had been foolish to believe in the magic of the night. She turned her gaze to the window, watching as the city lights twinkled like stars against the dark sky, a bitter-sweet reminder of the dreams she held close. Elara took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts, but as she prepared to leave, she couldn't shake the warmth of Julian's earlier words. Perhaps this night was more than just an escape. Perhaps it was a catalyst for something beautiful, something that could transcend the boundaries of their worlds. For the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of hope igniting within her, a yearning to embrace the unknown. Yet, as the evening unfolded, the shadows of doubt and societal expectations loomed ever larger, threatening to overshadow the fragile connection they had begun to build. Elara's heart raced as she prepared to confront the complexities of their lives, unaware of the emotional journey that lay ahead. The night was far from over, and the true test of their connection was yet to come. As Elara stood in the expansive ballroom, the glow of the crystal chandeliers cast a warm light over the elegantly dressed crowd. The laughter and chatter melded into a vibrant symphony, but for Elara it felt like a distant echo, one she struggled to connect with. She wore a simple yet tasteful dress that clung to her frame, a stark contrast to the opulent gowns and tailored suits surrounding her. The scents of expensive perfumes mingled with the aroma of gourmet hors d'oeuvres, yet all she could taste was the bitterness of her own insecurities. She had reluctantly accepted the invitation to this lavish event, hoping that perhaps it would spark some inspiration or connection in her new life. Yet, as she maneuvered through the throngs of people, she felt like an outsider, a nameless girl lost in a sea of affluence. Each laugh and whisper seemed to echo with an unspoken judgment, and she could feel the weight of their gazes upon her. Just as she was about to retreat to a quieter corner, her heart sank when she overheard a group of socialites near the bar. Their laughter rang out like sharp bells, piercing through her fragile confidence. "Look at her. What is she even doing here?" one of them remarked, her voice dripping with disdain. "I heard she's an artist. How quaint." Elara's cheeks flushed, and she felt like a deer caught in headlights. She tightened her grip around the glass of sparkling water, wishing she could melt into the ornate wallpaper. But before she could slip away, Julian appeared like a lighthouse in a stormy sea. His presence radiated warmth, and the familiar spark in his eyes offered her an unexpected sense of comfort. "Elara!" he called out, and the crowd momentarily hushed, turning their curious gazes toward them. "I'm so glad you could make it." His smile was genuine, and for a fleeting moment, Elara felt seen. Yet the warmth of his greeting was quickly overshadowed by the lingering whispers of the crowd. It was as if he had thrown her into the spotlight, and she could feel the scrutiny intensifying. "Julian," she managed to reply, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was just—" "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Elara," he continued, his voice resonating with confidence. "She's not just an artist, she's my future wife." The declaration hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. Elara's eyes widened in shock, her heart racing as she tried to process his words. A mixture of confusion and disbelief washed over her. She could see the surprise ripple through the crowd, some faces lighting up with intrigue, while others twisted in skepticism. But Julian's gaze remained steady, unwavering. "What?" she finally managed to stammer, her mind racing. "Julian, you can't just say that." But he simply chuckled softly, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Why not? I thought it might help you feel more comfortable," he said, leaning closer, his voice low. "And honestly, I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather have by my side." Elara felt a torrent of emotion swirling within her. Gratitude, confusion, and a flicker of something warmer, something like hope. As the evening progressed, they found themselves gravitating toward each other amidst the chaos, their conversations weaving a tapestry of shared dreams and vulnerabilities. "It's hard to believe you actually did that," she said, laughter bubbling up as they stood on the balcony away from the crowd, the city skyline twinkling like stars beneath them. The cool night air wrapped around them, offering a moment of reprieve from the judgments that lingered inside the ballroom. "I know, it was a reckless thing to do," Julian admitted, running a hand through his hair. "But I couldn't bear to see you humiliated. You deserve to be celebrated, not mocked." Elara felt a warmth blossom in her chest. "But I'm not what they want," she replied, the weight of her insecurities creeping back in. "I'm just a struggling artist. I don't belong in a place like this." "Who says you don't?" Julian countered, his voice firm yet gentle. "They may have their fancy titles and wealth, but that doesn't define who we are. You have a gift, Elara. You see the world differently, and that's beautiful." His words wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, and she felt the tension in her shoulders ease. "Thank you," she whispered, the sincerity in her voice reflecting the depth of her gratitude. "I don't know what I would have done without you tonight." As they talked, a connection began to form, a delicate thread woven through their shared laughter and honest confessions. Julian spoke of his life, the weight of expectations he carried from his family, and how he often felt trapped within the confines of their world. Elara listened intently, her heart aching at the realization that beneath his charismatic exterior lay a man burdened by the expectations of his affluent background. "I'm supposed to be this successful entrepreneur, but sometimes I feel like I'm just playing a part," he admitted, his gaze drifting toward the bustling city below. "I've always wanted to create something meaningful, something that matters, but the pressure to conform is suffocating." Elara nodded, understanding the struggle all too well. "I know that feeling," she replied softly, her thoughts drifting to her own journey as an artist. "I've always wanted to create art that speaks to people, that resonates with their souls. But sometimes it feels like I'm just shouting into the void." Their shared vulnerabilities drew them closer, and for the first time that evening, Elara felt a sense of belonging. She glanced at Julian, and their eyes locked in a moment of silent understanding, a promise of connection amid the chaos surrounding them. Yet, just as the warmth of their budding connection enveloped her, the shadows of doubt crept in. Elara couldn't shake the feeling that Julian's bold declaration was merely a shield against the judgment of others. What if he didn't truly mean it? What if, beneath his charming facade, he was simply trying to save face? The thought gnawed at her, and as they returned to the party, she felt a pang of uncertainty. The jubilant atmosphere felt stifling again, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, judged. The whispers of the socialites echoed in her mind, and she hesitated, unsure of how to navigate this newfound complexity. "Are you all right?" Julian asked, noticing her sudden change in demeanor. His brow furrowed with concern, and she found solace in the genuine worry etched across his face. "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile, "just a little overwhelmed." But as the evening wore on, the tension between them grew palpable. Elara caught glimpses of Julian engaging with his friends, laughter spilling from his lips, and a part of her felt envious. She wanted to be part of that world, to share in his light-hearted moments, but instead she felt like an imposter, a fleeting shadow in his vibrant life. As the night reached its peak, a sudden commotion erupted near the bar. Elara turned to see a group of Julian's friends laughing, their eyes darting toward her, and she felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. Were they laughing at her again? The familiar sting of humiliation crept back in, washing over her like a cold wave. "Let's get some air," Julian suggested, his voice firm as he guided her away from the crowd. They stepped outside onto the terrace, the cool night air brushing against their skin like a gentle caress. The city lights sparkled like a constellation, but for Elara, the beauty of the night was overshadowed by her swirling emotions. "Julian," she began, her voice trembling, "I appreciate what you did tonight. I really do, but I can't shake the feeling that your declaration was just a way to protect me." It wasn't real. He turned to her, his expression softening. "What if it is real?" he asked, taking a step closer, his gaze searching hers. "What if I meant every word?" Elara's heart raced as their proximity ignited a warmth within her, but the doubts continued to swirl. "I don't want to be a convenience, Julian. I don't want to be someone you feel obligated to care for." "Obligation?" he echoed, his tone incredulous. "Elara, you're anything but an obligation. You inspire me. You make me want to be more than what I've always been." His words struck a chord deep within her, but the fear still lingered. Could love truly blossom between two worlds so vastly different? Could they bridge the gap between art and affluence? The complexity of it all felt like a weight on her chest, almost suffocating. "Maybe we should take a step back," Elara suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we need to think about this without the pressures of tonight hanging over us." Julian's expression shifted, the light in his eyes dimming ever so slightly. "So, you want to walk away?" he asked, the disappointment evident in his voice. "No, it's not that," she protested, her heart aching at the thought of pushing him away. I need to figure things out. I don't want to lose myself in this whirlwind." He remained silent for a moment, the weight of her words hanging heavy between them. The connection they had built felt fragile, teetering on the edge of something beautiful yet terrifying. Elara could see the internal struggle in his eyes, a battle between desire and the fear of vulnerability. As the night wore on, the city hummed beneath them, a reminder of the world outside their cocoon. Elara took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Maybe we can start fresh," she suggested, her voice softening. "Maybe we can explore this connection without the weight of expectations." Julian's gaze met hers, and the warmth returned as a flicker of hope ignited in his eyes. "I'd like that," he said, a smile breaking through the tension. "Let's take it one step at a time." A tentative smile tugged at Elara's lips, and in that moment, amidst the uncertainty, she felt a glimmer of possibility. Perhaps love could flourish even in the face of their complexities. As they stood together on the terrace, the city lights twinkling like stars above, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. And in that moment, beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, they took their first step towards something new. A connection that promised to transcend the boundaries of their worlds, a journey that was just beginning. The city glittered under the embrace of twilight, its vibrant hues casting a magical spell over the evening. Elara stood near the entrance of the lavish party, her heart racing as she surveyed the scene. The grand ballroom was adorned with chandeliers that sparkled like stars, illuminating the faces of the elite who mingled effortlessly, their laughter echoing in the air like music. Yet, amidst this opulence, Elara felt like an outsider, a nameless girl lost in a sea of glitter and glamour. As she clutched her small clutch, a sense of trepidation washed over her. The art world she adored felt worlds apart from the polished sophistication surrounding her. A group of well-dressed socialites stood across the room, their laughter ringing with a sharp edge. They were discussing art, and Elara could feel their eyes flicker towards her, the unspoken judgment palpable in the air. "Look at her," one of them sneered, her voice dripping with condescension. "She probably thinks her little sketches are worth something in this world." Elara's cheeks flushed as her heart sank. The sting of their words felt like ice against her skin. In a moment of vulnerability, she turned to leave, the urge to escape this suffocating atmosphere overwhelming. But just as she began to retreat, a familiar voice cut through the noise, wrapping around her like a lifeline. "Excuse me, everyone." Julian's voice rang out, authoritative yet warm. The room fell silent as he strode confidently toward her, his presence commanding attention. "I'd like to introduce you all to someone very special." Elara felt her breath hitch in her throat, her heart pounding as he approached. She had not expected him to come to her aid, and yet here he was, a beacon of light in her moment of darkness. "This is Elara," he continued, his gaze locking onto hers. "And I'm proud to say she's my future wife." The words hung in the air like a spell, momentarily freezing Elara in disbelief. The socialites blinked in astonishment, their expressions shifting from mockery to confusion. Elara's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and embarrassment flooding her senses. Could this really be happening? Did he mean it? As Julian spoke, she noticed the way he held his head high, a protective aura surrounding him. "Elara is an incredibly talented artist," he continued, his voice steady. "Her work captures the beauty and complexity of the world in ways that many overlook. I encourage you all to take a moment to appreciate her vision." The warmth in his tone ignited a flicker of hope within her, pushing back the shadows of self-doubt. Yet, in the midst of his declaration, a flutter of confusion took hold. Was this simply an act of kindness, or was there something deeper behind his words? The socialites exchanged glances, the initial shock giving way to whispers and speculation. Elara felt her cheeks flush, a blend of embarrassment and exhilaration coursing through her. Julian's unexpected support had transformed her from a mere spectator to a focal point, and she couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude toward him. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur as he leaned closer, the distance between them narrowing. "But you didn't have to do that." Julian's expression softened, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. "I wanted to." "You deserve to be seen, Elara. Don't let anyone dim your light." Just then the tension broke as a nearby socialite scoffed. "Oh, please, Julian, you can't seriously be considering her for a serious commitment." Elara's heart sank at the condescension, the judgment weighing heavily on her. She felt the urge to shrink back, to hide from the scrutiny, but Julian's presence anchored her. He turned to the woman, his jaw tightening slightly. "Why not? Elara has something that many in this room lack: authenticity. She sees the world differently, and that's something to be cherished." The atmosphere shifted, a ripple of unease spreading among the guests. Elara found solace in Julian's steadfastness, the way he stood by her. But as the evening wore on, the initial high of his declaration began to wane, leaving her grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. The party soon resumed, and the socialites, though still murmuring, began to lose interest in her. Elara and Julian found themselves in a quieter corner, away from the prying eyes. The soft glow of the chandeliers created an intimate cocoon, and for a moment it felt as if they were the only two people in the room. "What was that all about?" Elara asked, a mix of curiosity and vulnerability lacing her voice. Julian shrugged, a playful smile dancing on his lips. "I figured you could use a little boost. Besides, it was fun to watch their reactions." Elara couldn't help but grin, the tension easing between them. "You certainly caught me off guard. I thought I was going to vanish into thin air." His laughter rang like music, lightening the atmosphere. "You're far too captivating to disappear, Elara. I've seen your art. It speaks volumes. You just need to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you." Her heart fluttered at his words, a warmth spreading through her. They began to talk, the conversation flowing easily, as they shared dreams, hopes, and fears. Julian spoke of his family's expectations, the pressure to conform to a life he didn't want. Elara opened up about her struggles as an artist, the turmoil of self-doubt that often clouded her creativity. As they shared their vulnerabilities, the connection between them deepened, a thread weaving their souls together. Elara began to see Julian not just as the charming entrepreneur, but as a man grappling with his own battles, a soul yearning for authenticity. But as the night unfolded, the spectre of societal expectations loomed large. Elara couldn't shake the feeling that Julian's declaration had been impulsive, a means to protect her from humiliation rather than a genuine commitment. Doubts crept into her heart, swirling around the possibility that once the night faded, so too would his interest in her. In a moment of silence, she turned to him, searching for reassurance. "Julian, about what you said earlier, were you serious?" His expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. "I was trying to protect you, Elara, but I can see how it might have come across as a joke." Her heart sank at his words. "So it was just a way to deflect their judgment? You didn't mean it?" "No, I meant it," he replied, his eyes searching hers. "But I understand if you think it was just a momentary impulse. I'm still trying to figure things out just like you." The weight of his honesty hung between them, a fragile thread that could easily snap. Elara felt a wave of frustration wash over her. It's hard to believe you meant it when everything seems so complicated." Julian stepped closer, his voice dropping to a gentle whisper. "I know it's complicated, but I'm willing to navigate that if you are. You're worth it, Elara." His sincerity stirred something deep within her, a longing for connection, a desire to be seen and understood. Yet, the fear of vulnerability loomed large, threatening to shatter the fragile bond they had begun to build. "Maybe we can explore this connection without the weight of expectations," she suggested, her voice trembling slightly. Julian's gaze met hers, and the warmth returned as a flicker of hope ignited in his eyes. "I'd like that," he said, a smile breaking through the tension. "Let's take it one step at a time." A tentative smile tugged at Elara's lips, and in that moment, amidst the uncertainty, she felt a glimmer of possibility. Perhaps love could flourish even in the face of their complexities. As they stood together on the terrace, the city lights twinkling like stars above, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. And in that moment, beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, they took their first step toward something new. A connection that promised to transcend the boundaries of their worlds, a journey that was just beginning. Elara stood on the terrace, the city sprawling below her like a canvas, waiting for the strokes of a brush. The lights twinkled as if the stars themselves had descended to mingle with the hum of life below. Her heart beat in time with the rhythm of the city, a melody that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The weight of the moment settled around her like a soft embrace, yet she couldn't shake the shadows of doubt that lingered in the corners of her mind. Julian stood beside her, the air thick with unspoken words. His presence felt like a warm glow in the cool night, a stark contrast to the chill of uncertainty that had gripped her since the party's chaotic turn. She turned to him, searching his face for answers, for reassurance, for something that would tether her to this whirlwind of emotions. "Why did you say that back there?" she finally asked, her voice barely rising above the distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses. "I wanted to protect you," he said, his gaze steady yet soft, the sincerity in his eyes cutting through the tension that had built between them. "I didn't want them to hurt you." "But it felt like a lie," she replied, her heart aching at the thought. "You introduced me as your future wife without meaning it. How can I trust you when your words are so easily given to the whims of the moment?" Julian sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration and vulnerability. "You're right. I didn't think it through. I acted on impulse." He paused, his expression shifting to one of determination. "But I meant what I said in that moment." "You mean something to me, Elara?" "More than I expected." His admission hung in the air, suspended between them like a fragile thread, and she felt her heart flutter at the weight of his words. Yet uncertainty clouded her mind. "But what does that mean for us?" she asked, searching for clarity amidst her swirling emotions. "Can we really bridge the gap between our worlds?" Julian's eyes darkened with a mix of regret and hope. "I don't know," he confessed. "I've been so caught up in my own expectations and the life that's been laid out for me. But with you, everything feels different. I want to explore that difference, to find out where it could lead." Elara's breath caught in her throat. The idea of exploring something real with Julian was both thrilling and daunting. She had spent so long feeling like an outsider, an artist struggling for recognition, and now here she was, contemplating a future that felt as fragile as the paint on her canvases. "What if it doesn't work?" she whispered, her vulnerability laid bare. "What if the expectations of your world pull us apart?" Julian stepped closer, the warmth of his body radiating toward her. "Then we'll face it together," he replied, his voice steady and sincere. "I'm tired of living for others. I want to live for myself and for you. I want to discover what we can create together, both in art and in life." A flicker of hope ignited within Elara, brighter than the city lights that surrounded them. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen and understood. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his, a simple yet profound connection sparking between them. "I want that too," she admitted, her heart swelling with the possibilities that lay ahead. "But I need time to figure out who I am without the weight of my past." "Take all the time you need," Julian said, his voice a soothing balm to her racing thoughts. "I'll be right here, ready to support you." As they stood together on the terrace, the city pulsating with life beneath them, Elara felt a sense of calm wash over her. The fears that had once paralyzed her began to dissolve, replaced by a burgeoning sense of trust in Julian and in herself. Perhaps love could flourish, even amidst their complexities, and perhaps they could navigate the uncharted waters of their connection together. Days turned into weeks, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the city, Elara found herself increasingly drawn to Julian. Their encounters became laced with warmth and laughter, the initial tension gradually giving way to a deeper understanding. They explored art galleries hand in hand, sharing their thoughts on the pieces that spoke to their souls. Julian would listen intently as Elara spoke passionately about her work, her dreams and her fears, while she found herself captivated by his insights into the business world, a realm that had once seemed entirely foreign to her. Yet, as their bond deepened, the spectre of Julian's social circle loomed larger than ever. His friends, accustomed to the glitz and glamour of their affluent lives, began to notice his changing demeanor. They whispered behind closed doors, their judgmental glances directed at Elara whenever she joined them at social gatherings. The pressure began to mount once again, and Elara felt the familiar pangs of insecurity creeping back into her heart. One evening, as they strolled through a nearby park under the soft glow of street lamps, Elara sensed the tension simmering beneath the surface. "Julian," she began softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "do you think they see me as an outsider?" He paused, turning to her with a furrowed brow. "What do you mean?" "Your friends," she continued, her heart racing. "They look at me like I don't belong, like I'm just a phase in your life until someone more suitable comes along." Julian's expression hardened slightly, a flash of anger sparking in his eyes. "They don't understand you, Elara. They don't see the incredible person I see. But I won't let their opinions dictate how we feel about each other." She appreciated his conviction, but the gnawing doubt remained. What if it changes you? What if you start to feel like you have to choose between me and your world? He reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. I refuse to be confined by anyone else's expectations. My world is not my life, Elara. You are what makes me feel alive. I won't let anyone take that away from me. His words ignited a flicker of hope within her, but fear still lingered at the edges. But what happens when the pressure becomes too much? She asked, her voice trembling. What if we can't withstand it? Then we'll face it together, he reiterated, his grip on her hand firm and reassuring. I won't let you go, Elara. You're worth fighting for. As they walked further into the park, the moonlight casting a silver glow on their path, Elara felt the weight of his promise resonate within her. She knew their journey would not be easy, but the bond they were building felt as though it could withstand the test of time. It was a fragile yet beautiful thing, like the first strokes of a new painting, full of potential and possibility. Days turned into weeks, and one crisp autumn evening, as the leaves crunched beneath their feet, Julian took a deep breath, his expression serious. Can we talk about us? He asked, the gravity of his tone sending a shiver down her spine. Elara nodded, her heart racing. Of course. What's on your mind? I've been thinking about how we can navigate the challenges ahead, he began, his gaze steady. I don't want to hide our relationship from anyone. I want to be proud of what we have. Her heart soared at his words. I feel the same way, she admitted. But I also know that it won't be easy. We'll face judgment, scrutiny, and probably some harsh words. Then let's face it together, he said firmly, his hand finding hers once more. We'll show them what love looks like, regardless of our backgrounds. I want to introduce you to my world, Elara, but only if you're ready. With the warmth of his words enveloping her like a comforting embrace, Elara felt a surge of courage. I'm ready, she declared, her voice steady. Let's show them that love knows no boundaries. As they stood together beneath the starlit sky, they felt an unspoken agreement solidify between them. They were willing to navigate the treacherous waters ahead, hand in hand, hearts open, and ready to face whatever came their way. Days later, Julian organized a small gathering at a cozy cafe, inviting a few close friends and family members. Elara's heart raced as she prepared for the evening, her mind filled with thoughts of how the others would react to their relationship. Would they accept her? Would they see the beauty in their connection, or would they dismiss it as a fleeting romance? As guests began to arrive, Elara felt a familiar sense of unease wash over her. Yet, as she caught sight of Julian across the room, his warm smile and reassuring presence calmed her racing heart. He approached her, taking her hand in his, and together they faced the gathering of curious eyes. Everyone, Julian began, his voice resonating with confidence. I want to introduce you to someone very special to me. This is Elara. Elara felt a flutter of nerves as she stepped forward, the room silent as all eyes turned to her. She could sense the skepticism in some of their gazes, but she held her head high, ready to embrace the moment. It's a pleasure to meet you all, she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. Julian's friends exchanged glances, some nodding, while others remained skeptical. But Elara stood firm, determined to show them the depth of her connection with Julian. As the evening unfolded, she found herself engaging in conversations, sharing stories about her art, and discovering the layers of Julian's life that she had yet to uncover. With each passing moment, the tension began to dissipate, replaced by laughter and warmth. Julian's friends started to see her not merely as an outsider, but as a person with her own passions and dreams. By the end of the evening, Elara felt a sense of acceptance begin to bloom within the group, a small victory that filled her heart with hope. As the gathering drew to a close, Julian pulled her aside, his eyes sparkling with admiration. You were incredible tonight, he said, his voice full of warmth. I knew you could do it. Elara smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me," she replied, her voice soft. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Together," he said, drawing her closer. "We're stronger together." In that moment, the world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them standing beneath the stars, their hearts intertwined. As they shared a tender kiss, the worries of the past faded into the background, replaced by an unwavering sense of hope for the future. As they pulled away, Elara looked into Julian's eyes, a sense of peace washing over her. "Whatever challenges come our way, I know we can face them together," she said, her voice steady. "Absolutely," he replied, a smile tugging at his lips. "We'll write our own story, one filled with love, resilience, and the beauty of being true to ourselves." And as they stood together, hand in hand, beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, they knew that their journey was just beginning. A connection that promised to transcend the boundaries of their worlds, a love that was destined to endure.